When you play War Thunder, does your Silver Lion count look like this?
In terms of money, we have no money.
Would you like to learn how to turn your Silver Lion count from that to this? When you're in luck, because in this 2-part series, I'll be showing you exactly how you can do that. So I hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned. Want to go ahead and first off say thank you so much for the support and love on the last video. It has done way better than I expected and done over 500 views, and we got 40 comments. Maybe some of them were me replying to them, but we don't gotta talk about that. But again, I do thank you so much. It means the world that you guys support this channel and leave comments and likes and just keep viewing the video and sharing it with your friends. Today, I figured that it'd be a great opportunity, since we do have a upcoming event, if you were not aware, with the 3 event vehicles that will be coming out at the same time, as well as SL crates. So I figured since there'll be SL crates, that's a great opportunity to talk to you guys about how to not only maximize and level up your gameplay, but to maximize and level up your SL earning per game, or just generally over time, depending on how much time you have per day to play the game. There's a lot of different ways to do it, from arcade to realistic, even sim battles, but we're mainly gonna stay in the realm of realistic today, since I do think that is the most average and easiest way to earn SL. But again, you can do it in arcade, you can do it in sim, but we're just going to stick to realistic, since I think that that'd be the best for most people, the average player that'll be playing War Thunder. So I hope you guys are ready to learn some new tips and tricks about some wagers. We're going to be doing a tier list, so hopefully you enjoy this content. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a minute with the tier list. Let's go. Let me go ahead and put out there that we will mainly be sticking in the realm of wagers. If this does good and you guys enjoy it, I would love to make a video on orders as well. Orders are a very good way to also earn SL. I do think it's different than wagers, which is why I'm splitting them up into doing just strictly wagers, since I do think there's already a lot that you could go into on just wagers themselves. So I'll be doing strictly wagers in this video. We will not be discussing, obviously, the GE wagers, since that is for Golden Eagles and not for Silver Lions. So we're going to stay in the realm of wagers. And again, if you guys want to see the video about orders, just go ahead and drop a comment down below so I know that you guys are looking forward to that. Okay, so before we begin, I want to make sure we're on the same page in regards to how I'm judging each one of these wagers. There's 5 major things that I think each wager can be scaled by, so that way we're knowing why something's S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, or D tier. The first thing is how easy the wager is generally to complete. Number 2 would be how much the wager could be affected by things that are out of the player yourself's control. Number 3 would be how many ways there are to complete the wager itself. Number 4 would be how much SL you make from completing the SL at max bet. And number 5 is the ability to be repeated or farmed in regards to doing the same wager back to back, if that's what you choose to do. So the first wager that I want to talk about, personally my favorite wager as well, is the Unstoppable wager. It is in my opinion, a S tier wager, because you can make 500,000 SL from it as long as you win 10 matches, and you have the ability to lose 6. Really 5, because on the 6th one you lose it, so technically you have 5 matches you can lose and you still have another chance to win the wager. In order to win it, you must get one of the following medals every single match for it to count and be a win. The first medal you have to get is Hero of the Sky, which means you destroyed the most aircraft in air battles. The second option you have of medals to win is Terror of the Sky, which means you destroyed the most aircraft in air battles, but if multiple players have the exact same amount of targets destroyed, the one that has the most score will be the one receiving the medal. You can also get my personal favorite, Thunderer, which means you destroyed the most AI ground units, but it cannot be less than 16, or which runs in hand with Thunderer would be Anti-Mech, which means you destroyed the most ground units that are AI, but again, if several players have the same amount of ground targets destroyed, it goes to the one with most score. There's also another one that's Heavy Metal Hero, which means you destroyed the most ground vehicles of other players, but it cannot be less than 12. Or you can get Heavy Metal Fury, which means you destroyed the most ground vehicles of other players, but it can only be less than 11, and if several players have the same amount of targets destroyed, again, it will be given to the player that has the most score. There's also Tsunami, which means you destroyed the most AI water units, but it cannot be less than 18. Or you can get Rogue Wave, destroyed the most AI water units, but it cannot be more than 17. And again, if multiple players have the same destroyed targets that are water, of course, then the one with the most score will get that medal. The reason I rank this S tier is not only for the SL amount you can make, not only the fact that you can lose 6 matches or 5, but it's because there's so many different ways you can get this done that if you like air or ground, you can achieve this medal. I personally would suggest doing air. The reason is because if you get a plane that has an air spawn, I would suggest strike aircraft. For a reason, not only do they get an air spawn, but they're usually very quick, and it's in the name strike aircraft. That's their job, to ground pound. So it's really easy to achieve that. For example, the F-84, you get an air spawn in that with 1800 bullets. You can strafe all the ground targets usually in one line, and by the time you're out of ammo, you can RTB and get ready to do it again by strafing other ground targets, which makes it very easy to complete this challenge. Now, you do have to be aware of the enemy team, because say you on your team have 18, but another player on the enemy team has 18. You would need to get more than them to win the challenge. Or if you have more score than them, then you can also win it as well. But normally, I do this a lot. I would say 9 times out of 10, no one's doing this. Sometimes you run into other players that are doing it, but it's very rare and few and far between, so it's not really a big deal. You can do this on ground as well, but it's more so you'd be leaning towards trying to get Heavy Metal Hero or Heavy Metal Fury, which means you destroyed the most ground targets. But that's only if you care for ground. And again, you could do that if you're better at ground. I wouldn't suggest trying to do the air challenge part of it if you're not good at air. But I would suggest trying to get Thunderer or Anti-Mech, because again, if you get something that has an air spawn, either an interceptor or a strike aircraft, this challenge is so easy to complete, and you can get so much SL within an hour. Not only do you get the max amount of SL, which is 500k, but you also can research your plane, and you get more SL for strafing the ground targets. If you have premium time, that can stack. If you have a booster, that can stack. If it's a premium vehicle, that can stack. But we'll mainly be sticking into the free-to-play area. So even if you don't have premium time, if you don't have a premium vehicle, you still make a decent amount of money and RP from just doing the striking on the ground. And I want to touch base, while there is that Rogue Wave one that we talked about, as well as Tsunami, it's very rare that you'll get a map that has AI water units. And if it does, there's only a few of them. And sometimes it's a battleship or it's patrol boats that have guns. So I really would steer away from trying to do that. If you can get it done, that's great. But I would mainly stick to trying to get Thunder or Anti-Mech, because out of all the medals you can get on this, those are the easiest ones to not only achieve, but to get back to back to back in every match, as long as you focus on just strafing ground targets. Now, the next wager we're going to discuss is the Destroy 10 Units wager. In my opinion, this one is a C tier, and the reason why, I know that might seem a little hot, that might be a hot take, but the reason I think so is because you have to get 10 vehicles destroyed every single match in order to get a win. That is just very, very high tier. I think even the highest players, skill-wise, would struggle with that, given you can have an up tier, and if you get an up tier, you're kind of cooked, usually, in regards to how well you're going to perform in that match. You can still do well, but getting 10 kills in a full up tier is usually pretty rough. You can make 500 KSL if you win. You do also get 10 chances to lose, technically 9, because on the 10th you would lose the wager. So I do think that there's a little bit of, leeway to give the wager, but mainly destroying 10 units back to back, you really have to be at the best of your game in order to get 10 units destroyed for 10 different matches. So I really think that that's just a C tier wager, because I don't see it being something that the average player, myself included, would be able to do match to match to match to match. Now, if you're really good at ground and you excel at it, that would be a great wager for you. If you have a great lineup that you're using, for example, 6-7 America, something like that, where we all know 6-7 America is a great BR. Really rush at any BR. If you are good at ground and you really think you're confident in your ability, I would 100% suggest this for you, because not only are you making a lot of SL from the 10 kills you're getting, plus, you know, however many you get that match, but you can make 500k SL at the end of it all as long as you win the 10 matches. So if you excel at ground, I would 100% suggest it to you, but I'm speaking from the point of view of the average player. I don't think that it's really worth the time that you'd be, you know, sweating and focusing really hard on getting those 10 kills. Then there's other wagers that you really could be focusing on that don't require that much of attention. Now, the next wager we're going to talk about is Hero of the Sky. That wager as well, for me, is going to be a C tier wager. And the reason I say that is because you have to get 2 different medals, or one or the other, in order to achieve it. And that's either destroy the most aircraft in air battles, or destroy the most aircraft, but if multiple players have the same one, then you would have to again be the one with the most score to get the win. You do get 500 KSL if you win it, which is great. Most of them do have that, just to make you aware, so you'll hear that a lot through the video. They're all 10 matches as well, just to put that out there. But you do have the ability to lose 6 times, technically 5, because on the 6th one you would lose the wager. But the reason I put this at C tier is because I would say the average player getting the most aircraft kills in a match is really rough to do, because most times the kills are kind of spread out and there's usually one player in the match that gets the most kills, and you may get 1 or 2, but there's usually, we all know, there's that one player that just kind of wipes and carries a team. Now, if you excel at air, this would again be just like the destroy 10 units wager. You go do it. If you got a plane that you're really good in, that you're confident in your fighting ability in, I would suggest this for you, because again, you make 500k at the end of it, and if you can make a lot of SL not only by getting the kills in that match, you'll also make a lot of RP researching those planes. So if you excel at air, this would be great for you. I just think for the average player, there's better wagers to put your time and effort into that don't require as much focus and sweating. And the only reason I say sweating is because if you're trying to get a wager done, it's at the forefront of your mind, and that's what you're focused on. So you're focused on trying to get as many kills as you can. So you might take a fight that you shouldn't take. You might play a lot more aggressive than necessary, and you could find yourself in a sticky situation where you start losing matches because you're getting a little over aggressive and tunnel visioned. So the next wager we'll be discussing is the Wingman Wager. I myself will be putting that at the B tier. The reason for that being, you do get a 500k as usual payout for SL, max 10 matches as usual as well, and you can only lose 6 matches, again 5 technically, but there's only 2 different medals that you would have to get in order to complete this. That being Wingman, which means you had the most assists in destroying enemy vehicles, but it cannot be less than 8, or On Hand, which means you had the most assists destroying enemy vehicles, but it cannot be more than 7. Again, if several players have the same amount of vehicle assists destroyed, then it will go to the player that has the most score. This is a great challenge in my opinion for light tanks, because you do not need kills to get this challenge done, only assists. So for example, you could take a light tank with a 20mm autocannon, drive around and just track a bunch of players, and then let other people get the kills, and then you can get assists. Now, it again is a B tier because you have to kind of rely on your team to get this done, because you can track someone all day, but if no one kills them, you're not getting the assist. But the reason why it's also B tier is because you can do this many different ways. Not only from the ground can you track someone or take out their engine, but if you get into a plane, you can strafe tanks, and as long as you get them to repair something by taking out their engine or taking out their track or their barrel, that forces you to get that assist because you critically damage them. Make sure that you don't aim for their rooftop MG and you're like, oh, I damaged them, now they have to repair it. I don't think that's enough for it to count as an assist, so I would suggest trying to aim for tracks or engines or barrels. That way you can get pretty much a guaranteed assist when your teammates destroy that vehicle that you're targeting. So the next wager we'll be looking at is the Mission Maker wager. I unfortunately am putting this in the D tier. You do get a 500 KSL payout with a max of 10 matches won. You can only lose 10 of them, technically 9. This is the old version of the wager. They have revamped it a little bit, so the other one may be ranked higher. But the reason why I put this one in D tier is because you have to deliver the first and final blow of any match. That is a very hard thing to do because most players are all going for that first kill, or they're all, you know, as soon as a match starts, they're going as fast as they can to make it to the battle. So it's really hard to get the first blow. And even if you do get the first one, the final one is very hard to achieve because you can kill someone, then a second later someone else can get a kill, and then the match ends. So that one's really just not a dependable challenge to do. The energy you'll be putting forth to try to get that first and final kill is going to drive you insane, and you're probably not even going to get it. So it is nice. Some matches you may see, oh, I got Mission Maker where I got the first and final blow, but that's usually an off chance and something that you're not even thinking about. And when it happens, you're like, oh, that's cool. But you wouldn't want to do a wager to where you're trying to do that every single game, because then you'd probably be going insane, which you probably already are because you're playing War Thunder. Now, the next one that we'll be discussing is called the Wing Breaker, and that one for me will also be going in the D tier. You do get a 500 KSL payout with a max 10 matches won. You can only lose 3 battles. This is another old wager. They did revamp this one as well, so later the other one will be on the tier list as well. But you have to achieve the Wing Breaker medal, which means you destroy the most air targets controlled by players in combined battles, which means not in air. You cannot do this one in air because it says combined battles, which means it has to be ground realistic or naval realistic. And obviously we're not even going to discuss naval realistic because getting 5 plane kills in naval is going to be really hard to do. But doing it in ground is not the hardest, but it does depend on the enemy team going after the ground from a plane. So you would have to either be anti-cast, anti-air, using proxy rounds on howitzers. But it depends on the enemy team doing good, because if they're not doing good, they're not going to have enough spawn points to get into a plane. So even if you're doing great, if they're not doing great, how are you going to get plane kills if they don't have enough spawn points to get in a plane that you can shoot down? That's why I put this one in a D tier, because there's a lot of variables that really aren't in your control that can make that an easily achievable challenge. Now again, you may have some matches where you get 5 kills, but getting 5 plane kills for 10 matches really just isn't that doable in the long term. Alright, now the next one that we'll be discussing is called Battle Victory, the Battle Victory wager. That one as well will be going in the D tier. I know 3 in a row have been D tier, but I'm telling you, this is just my honest opinion. You do get a 250 KSL payout, which in my opinion is very low for the effort you'd have to put in to get 10 matches won, since that's what you have to do, and you can only lose 3, so again technically 2. This one is just not, it's so hard to achieve. I know it sounds simple, just win the match, but as you guys know, teammates in this game can be very 50-50, depending on your nation, depending on your BR, really just no matter what you're doing, depending on your teammates is a very risky gamble. You can do great in the match, your squad can do great in the match, but if your team's not doing good and you're not working together, you're just gonna lose, and there's not really any point to try to push yourself to get battle victory unless you have a full squad. If you have a full squad, then I would suggest trying to do this, but even then there's another wager we'll be discussing later that I think if you have a full squad, it'd be better to try if you do have it. Now if you are obviously out of said wager we'll be discussing, then this would be good for you, but I think it's just D tier since it doesn't have the ability to be easily achieved by not only yourself but your squad, since you have to depend largely on your team winning the match and doing good. Now the next wager we'll be discussing is the new revamped Mission Maker wager, which in my opinion is going into the C tier. The only reason it's not going into D is because you get a 400 KSL payout, which is 100,000 less than the other one, but the main thing for me is you only have to win 3 matches and you can lose 3, again technically 2. You have to get the Mission Maker medal, which is again deliver the first and final blow of the match, but since you only have to do it 3 times, I think that losing 100 KSL but only having to do 3 matches instead of 10 makes the world of a difference if you are going to try to do this, because if this is the only one you have and you don't have any other choice, then I think that this would be worth it, because you only have to drive yourself insane getting the first and final blow for 3 matches rather than doing it for 10. So for that reason I think this one deserves a C tier rather than being being in a D tier as the old wager was. Now the next wager that we'll be discussing is the revamped Wingbreaker wager, which in my opinion deserves a C tier, and the reason why is because not only do you only make 300 KSL, which is 200k less than the other one. I think that's a pretty large cut for the amount of effort you have to put into getting the Wingbreaker medal, which is again destroy the most air targets controlled by players in combined battles, but it can't be less than 5. You only have to do it for 3 matches. You can lose it 3 times, again technically 2. I just think that since they took away 200 KSL from it, that is a big chunk. I think 400k might have been better because Mission Maker gets that, and I know it's a little bit harder and different, but I still think getting the most air kills in a ground match or a naval match is deserving of 400k, especially if you do that 3 matches in a row, because it's not really as simple as you would think to get the most kills, because obviously if your team's doing their job, when a plane is up, SPAA or anti-cast or howitzers are doing what most would designate as their job. Probably not a howitzer, but I would do it if I was a howitzer, using proxy rounds and shooting down a plane, because you obviously don't want a plane having free roam and just flying around the air and, you know, killing your team or marking them. So for that reason, this is just a C tier because it's not really that good out of all the wagers, but it's not the worst. It could be worse, but this is the new one, so I think that it deserves a C tier. The next wager that we'll be discussing is the destroy 5 units wager, and that one will be a tier. I think it's the only A tier we have on this list because there's only one more wager after this, and it's definitely not A tier. This one is a very small payout, only 100 KSL, but you have to get 2 matches where you destroy 5 or more units. Very easy to do that, in my opinion, for the average player. You can lose 3 of them, again technically 2, but you only need to get 5 units. The good thing about this one, and forgot to mention it on the destroy 10 units wager, is it can only be done in ground, but the good thing about it is that you don't only have to get kills from a ground vehicle. You have to destroy only ground vehicles, but say you get 4 kills and you have a plane, you can bring in the plane, bomb a ground target, boom, 5 targets right there. So you don't have to only get kills being in another ground unit, you just have to destroy 5 or more ground units. And again, this does go for the previously mentioned destroy 10 units wager. So if you destroy 5 units in a tank, spawn in a PE8, get 5 tank kills, then you completed the wager. So I think this one is an A tier, mainly just because the barrier to entry to do it. Again, the 100 KSL makes me kind of want to put it at a B tier, but since you only have to do it for 2 matches, I think the 100 KSL is a pretty good amount, since again, you have a large array of ways to get 5 ground targets destroyed, and you don't even have to win the match to complete it. You just have to get 5 targets. So as long as you get 5 targets, even if you lose the match, you still got it done. If someone else gets 5 units, that doesn't affect you. Someone else can get 20 units, but as long as you destroy your 5 or your 10 on the other wager, doesn't matter what anyone else does in the team, doesn't matter if you win or lose. As long as you get those units, you win. So that's why it's A tier. The final wager that we'll be looking into is the best squad wager. And if anyone knows about this wager, it is definitely S tier. The reason why, not only is it a 250 KSL payout, isn't that much, but used to be 500k, but Gaijin hates us, so they removed it and put it down to 250k. But you have to do it for 10 matches, and you can only lose 3. Again, technically 2. Now, while 250 KSL may not seem like a lot, it's actually a decent amount given the way you get best squad is by performing the best in the match with your squad mates, by getting kills next to each other, helping each other repair. You can do it from if you're in a tank and your friend's in a plane and he bombs someone but you're near him, you guys get medals like teamwork, and they can stack. So if you're in a squad of 4 people and you're all near each other and one person gets a kill, you all get a medal, which will be teamwork, and that will continue to stack throughout the match. So as long as you have a good squad and y'all stick together, this challenge is so easy to complete. I know, again, we do miss it being 500 KSL. That was probably even better than the unstoppable wager, but unfortunately it's down to 250k. But I still think that it's very, very good because each medal does give you some, like teamwork I think gives you about 2,000 SL, something around that. So those do stack, and it's a neat amount. After 10 games you can earn a decent amount from that, but I still think, again, 250k is a pretty generous amount given all you're doing is just playing the match, hanging out near your friends. Not a lot of people even do that. I rarely rarely see people that are trying to go for best squad. Most people just split up at the start of the match and just kind of do their own thing. So it's very easy to not only get this challenge done, but to replicate it match after match after match. And it helps your team get better at communicating, and it gives you a better chance at winning the match because you're working as a team to get kills, to get assists, to get things of that nature done. So it's definitely a S tier, and it's just barely under my unstoppable wager, only because they ruined it by making it 250k and not 500k. Drop a comment if you remember when it was 500k, because that was some of the greatest times of my life. But now it's 250k, so I cry. Alright, so since we have come to the end of the video and went over all the wagers, I want to go ahead and take some time now to tell you what modes each wager can be done in. That way you can pause the video and take a picture so you can save this list for future reference, so you never forget what game modes you can and cannot do for any given wager. The first one is Unstoppable. That can be completed by playing air or ground. Number 2, Destroy 10 units. That can only be completed in ground. Number 3, Hero of the Sky. That one can only be completed playing air. Number 4, Wingman. That can only be completed playing air or ground. Number 5, Mission Maker. That can be completed in air, ground, or naval. Number 6, Wingbreaker. That can be completed in ground or naval. Number 7, Destroy 5 units. That can only be completed in ground. And number 8, Best Squad. That can be completed in air, ground, or naval. Alright, so you can go ahead and pause the video if you'd like, take a picture with your phone, or go ahead and take a screenshot on your computer. That way you can save all these for future reference. So again, you never have to worry what wagers can be completed in what modes. Now, I hope that you guys enjoyed this tier list video. I definitely enjoyed going through each wager myself and showing you guys the pros and cons and ranking them on each tier myself. Again, I would be very interested and glad to make another video touching base on orders and ranking them on a tier list as well, because I think that orders have their own use in game, different than wagers do. So if you'd be interested in that, please leave a comment down below. And if you have any disagreements or agreements on regards to this tier list, and if you think maybe something from the D tier should we move it up to the A tier, or vice versa, B to C, A to S, S to D, let me know. Put it down below in a comment. I'd love to reply and love to see what you guys think. I love chatting with you guys. Again, we would love to have you in the Discord. The link will be in the description. We'd love to have you there. That way you can ask us some questions or give us some video ideas or just hang around.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Because we have weekly movie nights in there, as well as sometimes we're just hanging out in a VC gaming. We'd love to have you guys in there. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day. Make sure to have some protein on me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.